Hey all. Hey, it's been almost a week since my last video and just following up and following through. I received some huge breakthroughs, and yesterday I almost got on because I was just like, holy crap, like Eureka, like, 'cause there were so many breakthroughs like that just happened like in the last couple days. And in the last like 5 days I've written over 50 pages in my journal, and like just, yeah, like it's just been like a continuous discovery and flooding, almost like with everything that has come through. It's like the dam was breaking, it was on its way to like crumbling and breaking, and then it broke, and then all of this shift and shit and everything came through. And it's just like, wow, today, like seeing it and like processing some of it and being with it, and like, yeah, just following certain storylines, impulses, little inquiries, and then there's just more that's coming. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful for the breakthroughs, and like, in a way, it's like I had to be so exhausted and so tired and so like almost done to receive the gifts and the blessings. Like, not that I wasn't before, but to totally and fully like receive all that was being offered. Like, I had to be like broken down in a way to have the breakthrough, and or to break open and to allow that. And yeah, and it wasn't wrong at all. It was right. It was exactly right how it was meant to be, or how I got to receive it for me and through my willingness to engage and to open, and being willing to allow what was, what is, and to receive like all the gifts therein. And so, yeah, it's been a wild ride, and just like the last 3 days have had so much packed into them. It seems like 3 weeks almost, and it was just crazy how it all really just is delivered in certain ways. And sometimes it's hard to recognize what is being offered and what's being given and what we're willing to receive and all of that, until we're open and willing, and or until we're ready, or until like it all fits like in together, or it can be unified in some way. And yeah, it's just kind of funny. I knew like Coyote was at play, and I've had my, actually, yeah, have had my Coyote card come up, and it was just like one of those things that I knew like was some good medicine for me. And I knew like in certain ways I was fooling myself, but I didn't know to the extent of, you know, like the fool that I was playing, and then I was being played at being, you know. And so it was just kind of funny. Like on September 12th, I don't know if I shared this last time. Oh, but probably not. And so like I just kind of like was aware of some of the archetypes and the animals and the medicine companions that came up. And also like, yeah, this was right after I got to kind of share a little presentation with the awesome, I wouldn't call them an activist group, but I would call them like, just, I guess it's hard to like put one label on our group. If I had to put a label on us, what would we be? Pioneers and game changers, maybe. So yeah, like it was, I got to share a presentation with them about archetypes and alchemy, and just got to play with them, and it was pretty cool. Like I was led to kind of have like a little group activity for all of us. There was 13 of us, and that was pretty cool too. And so I chose like to write some things down on some note cards like this. And it was just like kind of a spontaneous thing last Wednesday, where I wrote down like some dominant archetypes that are in my space, like playing with me, and that I feel like really, really have huge parts to play, like within me, within my being, and within the, within my life, like to help me, like with my mission and my purpose and with my learning and growth. And so like, yeah, it was really cool. I'll just read off a couple of these cards that like have been at play and that are like really like a lot of my allies to claim, and the parts of me and the aspects that I get to direct and integrate in more full ways and whole true ways for me, for my well-being, and for my integrity. So the first one is the victim, also known as the survivor. And like the next one's the orphan, or also known as the good old boy or the neighbor. There's the fool, the trickster, also known as the sacred clown, the joker, the jester, and the comedian. The magician, which also can be known like in different systems as the visionary, the priestess, the shaman, and the mystic. The artist and the creator. The child, and here's different variations of the child. The magical, the nature child, the innocent, the wounded child, the divine child, the epicure or the eternal child. And it's like really all about dependency versus responsibility. And so then there's the sage, also known as the detective or the philosopher or the thinker. And the caregiver, also known as the healer. The rebel, which is the wild woman or the wild man. The fraud, which is also known as the saboteur or the imposter. The explorer, which is also known as the seeker or the free spirit. The hero, the warrior, also known as the dragon slayer and the rescuer. The ruler, aka the boss, the queen, the sovereign, and can also be the tyrant. And the whore, also known as the doormat, the hungry ghost, and the addict. The innocent, which is like part of like a variation of the child, the innocent, but also can have its own archetypal container. The dreamer, the mystic, or the saint. And the great mother. And for some reason, like I wrote down the martyr, the cheerleader, the lover, and the beloved. And so I thought that was an interesting like little connection. The great mother, maybe that's like, yeah, where I feel like I've had to play that great mother role, and it's also included being a martyr, like sacrificing myself for the greater good, or yeah, that kind of a thing, like selfless love and all of that, like where we neglect ourselves or we abandon ourselves for our children sometimes, or for those that we love. And like, yeah, and that's not a bad thing. It's just something to see, something that we get to look at, you know, like see if that contributes to like reciprocal exchange and to honoring and creating a healthy two-way street. So, and then there's the lover, which is the friend, the romantic, the parent, or the idealist. I'm working with my idealist a lot. She's given me a lot. So those are the cards, or what I wrote down just for that little thing. I had no idea like really what to expect, and it was just kind of a lot of it was spontaneous and using my intuition And like just knowing that I had a lot to draw from the last couple years, but like, yeah, wanting to share like a lot, but like knowing that sometimes there's only so much we could pack into like a big group of sharing. And then like it was just perfect the way that it worked out. And it was funny because I brought like the 22 archetypes of tarot, and I brought my medicine cards, and I had everybody, let's see, there's Otter. I had everybody pick one card out of each deck, so my note cards and my medicine cards and the tarot cards, and it was really interesting. Like we got to do a little group sharing and kind of talk about like the cards that we drew and if we think they had any relation to each other, or like, yeah, just it was just kind of interesting to see like how certain ones popped up in that space. And like for each person, like they were given their own kind of theme or messages, but like everybody's message or personal message was for the collective. And that's kind of just how it gets to be sometimes. It's kind of funny how certain things speak through each one of us for the whole. And that is like really cool to see in a lot of ways. Like, and so like I did take note of certain things that were popping up like in the space, like, cause that was for me too, you know, like even though someone else got it, it was like part of our group, and it was like, okay, this is related, and it relates to what we're going through as a whole, you know. And so as one in the whole, and as a whole one within the whole. And so I kind of thought that was cool. And the ones that I chose, like the ones that chose me, for like my little archetypal cards, I got the Rebel. A big surprise, which was funny, and I kind of knew I was going to draw that one, like when I was writing out the cards, like kind of like took note of the Rebel, like, and thanked the Rebel, and that's the one I ended up drawing later in the group. It was kind of funny. And then I drew for my archetypal card, like from the tarot, the Hermit, and then from the medicine cards I drew the Rabbit. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, it's time to go within. It's time to, yeah, trust that teacher within and the light within, and go do like a little recharging and all of that. And it's also time to face my fears and look at my fears, and also what I want to create with my own fertility instead of creating what I don't want. And like, so that was a helpful reminder for me, like, oh, okay, cool, you know. So, and that will come into play in a little bit, I'm sure. But like the day after, so I don't know actually, yeah, just remembering. So I wrote down on the 12th, silly being silly, taking myself so seriously again, gotta laugh at myself and begin again. And so what was at play was, or what I could see was what was coming into play or had been at play was trickster, coyote, the devil at play, the judge, the victim, the adversary, the dove, the deer, the antelope, the dog, the swan, dragonfly, armadillo, rabbit, hawk, owl, ant, bee, fly, scarab, ladybug, butterfly, caterpillar, wild boar, tiger, lion, giraffe, seal, whale, dolphin, turtle, shark, bison, cow, chicken, goose, duck, fish, dragon, eagle, serpent or snake, pigeon, and like iridescence, trust and presence, which is kind of funny. So like that's all I wrote for the 12th. That was just like, sometimes it's all it is, like just jotting things down. And some days it's like it just wants to all come out, like, and then the next day it was like, I think I wrote 13 pages, like, because then I had like a major storm and breakthrough to get through. And I was pretty annoyed, and I've been feeling annoyed, because I'm just like, really? This isn't done yet? Really? This is still an issue? Really? Like, why isn't this like changed yet? Why isn't this taken care of yet? Why isn't this different yet? Like, so done and tired of it, you know, fed up. And so I'll just go ahead and read what I have. It's like annoyed but satisfied, LOL. At least I got to speak my truth, feel heard, affirmed, and validated, supported, and seen. Maybe not 100% understood, but I'm allowed to be all of me, all I am, all my love for me. Silly projections and labels feeling devalued and undermined. So that means I get to dig deep and find all I really need inside of me. All I need is inside of me, within and all around me. Good conversations with friends today, and silly coyote again. Silly family and stories. Silly me being silly. Silly we being so silly. Okay, playing devils and fools. I'm playing the adversary. I'm playing the fool. Thanks, fools. So playing the challenger and the rebel. Playing the black sheep, the clown, and the tool. Responding and playing. Expressing all I feel. Playing back. All, many, everything, nothing, fool. Expressing all I feel. No holding back. I choose to be real. I choose to be true, full, whole. Wholly real. So whatever they say, I'm going to keep dreaming, celebrating, expanding, growing, and freeing me, changing and healing. Thank you all, fools. One love, many. And then, yeah, there's some stuff that was coming up, like that I was kind of, in a way, like I've been wanting to confront, but I've been avoiding confronting because I don't like confrontation. Like, I'm the one that will usually bend over backwards to make compromises and to make things pleasing and to caregive and to make it all better, to make everyone comfortable. And so it's been really hard for me to step out of that, like wanting to do that and to fix things and to smooth it all over and like really like go against me, like, but like for the sake of false peace and mediation, and like because I felt like that was my job, to be the peacemaker and the good one and the one that is the glue that holds everything together. But I can't do that anymore without destroying myself. So I get to move away from that, and I get to claim something else, and I get to claim something that's more true for me. And that's what's really been hard for me to do. And so I got to receive a lot of lessons and goodness in that. So the archetypes that I could see coming up with that, like, and I could see a lot of resentment, like a lot of resentment has been like under the seams because I had to, like, it was expected of me that I had to be the peacemaker and the giver and the caregiver and the one that was stronger, or the one that could rise above it, and I could push my feelings aside for the greater good. But I'm not gonna do that anymore because it's not honoring of me, and it's not allowing of me, and it's not honoring of the relationships that I want to create and that I want to cultivate. So I've been working on that and working through that. So what I was seeing coming up in a lot of ways, and it was just like my shadow that was trying to protect me. And even though I didn't like myself, or I didn't like who I was playing, I know it had value. And it was like for my benefit to, like, in a way protect my integrity, but it just is funny how it plays out in certain ways, through certain ways of being and through certain relationships and dynamics within those relationships. So what I could see was Mother Superior, like holier than thou kind of a thing. Mother Superior, the know-it-all, you know. I know better than you. Moral superiority and moral majority. An ostrich with its head in the sand. The wounded child. The orphan. The wounded healer and the healed healer. The black sheep. The monster and the minotaur. The scapegoat and just the mountain goat. The devil and the villain and the asshole. The sneaky ninja, like Saboteur. The outcast, the undesirable, the exile, the alien, the outlaw. The dragon and the dragon slayer, the hero. The outlaw, oh, the scholar, the student, The fraud, the victim, the tyrant, the fool, the idealist, the judge, the saboteur, the score holder, the teetotaler, the prude, the perfectionist, the whore, the people pleaser, the martyr, the miser, the clown, the sage, the poet, the rebel, the goddess, the queen, the boss, sovereign, the friend, the companion, the ally, the beloved, the sinner and the saint, the sacrificial lamb, the lion and the tiger, Durga and strength, the priestess, magician, empress, teacher, and emperor, lovers, a magical child, the epicure, which is the eternal child, the detective, the observer, the innocent child, unicorn, which reminds me of purity and innocence, the deer, gentle strength and faith, swan, grace, dragonfly, reminding me that I don't have to prove myself, and if I try and prove my power, then I lose my power. And so, yeah, all those parts and aspects had gifts and qualities that held for me either what I needed, what was available to me, or what I got to reclaim or notice and alchemize or transmute and neutralize. And so, yeah, I did have some stuff come up with family, like, and it actually really was good for me to kind of let it be played out. Like, even though I was like totally avoiding confrontation and like I didn't want to argue or get sucked into like a debate where someone had to win or someone had to convince anyone of anything, or that where we just like kind of go on our own hamster wheels and it's just such a waste of energy. And I was really like not wanting to engage in that or be involved in that, or like really kind of wanted to avoid that. But like in a way, like it was exactly what was needed, because sometimes it's like the confrontation is actually what helps things move. Or yeah, like it's like the winds of change. Like, yeah, sometimes they need to be allowed, like, to just like blow everything over or collapse the tower or whatever. And so, yeah, even though it's uncomfortable and it doesn't feel very good, like, and it's not really always graceful, and we don't always respond like at 100%, like where we're able, like, or respond in the ways that we'd like to, or respond in the ways that we have been able to before. Like sometimes it just gets to be whatever it is and whatever it gets to be, and like it's not wrong. And even if it's like so-called ugly or whatever, or not like perfect or like what we think it's supposed to be, and that's like hours where like I knew like I was getting in my own way, was because I had this certain image that I had to uphold of me, where I needed to be like the one that was, yeah, like holding my integrity. And like, yeah, just because I'm imperfect, or I have my human emotions and my human qualities and my my humanness, yeah, all of that, like, doesn't mean that I'm not like honoring my integrity if I'm imperfect, or if I let myself express myself in those imperfect ways, or whatever that is. And I think it's just bullshit. Like, it's bullshit programming that says we're not good enough if we're not always operating at 110%, like, of our game or whatever, you know, like, fuck that. And so I just got to like get over that and get through that, like, or how I was supposed to be, and how things were supposed to be, and how others should be, and how what they were supposed to get, and all of that. So like I've been angry because they weren't getting stuff, like, and like it's like, why aren't you getting this? And like, do you not want to get it? Like, are you just unable to get it? Like, and I knew there was stuff that I wasn't getting either, and Yeah. And then I just got a whole bunch. So, like, all the stuff that I wasn't really getting, I started to get. And it was so funny. Like, where I was like, okay, what am I not getting? You know? And it was funny where I got to see all the stuff that I wasn't really getting. Like, and it's not really about forgetting, but it's like, yeah, I had that expectation on me that, man, you guys should get this, and I should get this, and we should get it. Go get it. So it's like, you already have it, just allow it, you know? So yeah, it was uncomfortable, and it wasn't like something that I wanted really, or just want to avoid the uncomfortable, but like at the same time knowing that the uncomfortable is like part of the fertile, and it's not always comfortable, and growth isn't comfortable, and birth isn't comfortable, and death isn't comfortable, and sometimes sex isn't comfortable, and life isn't comfortable. And it's like, that's where the magic happens, is where it's uncomfortable sometimes, or where it gets to be authentic. And that's not always comfortable. Being authentic and being true isn't always comfortable. And so kind of just need to let that go. And so that was part of it. That was part of letting go. And what was kind of funny too is like I have books everywhere in the house, which is a surprise, right? So I picked up a book by Thich Nhat Hanh, and it's like, Breathe, You Are Alive. And I was like, yeah, because it's all about breathing, and it's all about the breath and the reset, and and like oxygenation, and yeah, restoration. But I flipped open the book, and number 16, breathing in, I observe letting go. Breathing out, I observe letting go. And it was just like a little thing about that, about these teachings. And I just read a little bit, and I thought it was just kind of funny. Breathing in, I observe letting go. Breathing out, I observe letting go. And I was just like, okay, this is what I get to receive right now. And all these things are not me. I have no need to be caught by them. So it's just funny, like, in a way, observing that, being in the world but not of it. And it is a dance, and it was a jerk dance, and some of it was reactive jerk dance, and some of it was a response to the jerk dance. And so it was silly. And yeah, it was helpful to have support, and to have like encouragement, and to have yeah, allies and support, a support system, and to be open to receiving that support and that like love and wisdom that's always being offered. And so it was like awesome when I needed it, and a friend reached out and sent me some prayers and words of encouragement, and it was awesome. Like, I didn't even read the words, but I could feel like the power that they had and the intention that they had, and it helped me remember what I wanted to accomplish and what my intentions were. And so I did my best with all of it, even when I felt like I didn't do very well, or it wasn't perfect. Like, I did my best with it, and it was authentic. So, even though it's hard, and it's challenging, and it's difficult, it's still really is all part of the whole, and it is what I needed for my soul to reconcile these parts of the whole. And they have been like a little misaligned, but that's okay, because I know that when we're coming into balance, sometimes we need to go way out of balance, like, to find that balance, or to reset. So like, just certain things playing out with my family members, certain old patterns, There's been a lot of that, like generational wounds and generational patterns, generational trauma and dynamics, and seeing those patterns in different relationships within my family, and like seeing them through the personal and the impersonal at play. And of course it's sometimes a lot harder when it's more personal, or when it's reflecting or triggering a wound. And so I got a lot like about that, and through that wound that needed to be opened and broken through, like how to resolve all this. And it was like really perfect and cool in a way, like how it did all come out through play, and how it unfolded in its own mysterious ways. And I just didn't need to control it, and like the more that I tried to control it, like it showed me that it would push back and control me. And so like that was humbling to see. Like when I was attached to it in a certain way, that's when it really like ran me over. And so I got to eat some humble pie in a certain way, like it was exactly what I needed to see, even though it's hard to look at those things. And it did help me have more compassion too, like for all of us, like when we're stuck in something, or when we're like really attached to something, like how hard it can be to swallow our pride, or to allow our pride to show us like where we've been a little inflated, or where we've been arrogant, or where we've been playing like the tyrant or the fool in certain ways, like even though we had good intentions. And so that was humbling, like for me, like because of course like I was seeing certain things reflected in the other, but of course I always know like that they're showing something to me about me, or what I get to be accountable for, or I get to just I guess own, or differentiate like what's mine, what's not mine, and all of that, like be accountable for what's mine and release what's not mine, or like don't have to feel obligated to take care of something that's not mine. Just so that like the other can be comfortable, and then I can be comfortable because they're comfortable, and then I'm not really comfortable, and then but like it's like something like some kind of sacrificial lamb programming that makes me think I have to sacrifice myself for everything to be okay, because that's my MO, like, and that's what I learned to play. And it's like hard to get out of that sometimes, and not feel like the bad guy, because I don't want to be a selfish asshole. I don't want to play that selfish asshole. But like, if I get to play the asshole and be the asshole, that's what I get to be. And it's not wrong for me to be the asshole. Let me be an asshole if I get to be the asshole. Like, don't hate myself for being an asshole, or not liking myself because I get to play an asshole, or I get to be the asshole in the story. And I just never liked being the asshole. Like, no one likes the asshole, but sometimes we do. Like, it just depends on how we play it and what's true, I guess, for us. Sometimes we enjoy, like, watching the asshole be an asshole, but when it's somebody we don't want to, you know, to play that asshole, it's like the worst thing. Like, I don't know what that's about, really, but I get to look into that a little more deeply. Look into the asshole. Like, our heads are already up there, so let's take a look. Yeah, seriously. And so, the ostrich with the head in the sand, sometimes it's like we have our head up our bums. Maybe if we go just a little further, we'll come back up. So it's like, fuck. You know, just get over yourself, get through to yourself. Yeah. Pucker up, buttercup. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that came up with that, and like with just patterns at play. And even though like it's just like family members that I care about, it's really interesting in a way that like I have bonded with them in my own ways, you know, like, and I do really like care about them, but it's not like family members that I'm like super, super, super close with or have like a lot of history with, but it's still like, they're still as valid and valued and important to me as like my other family members that I do have a lot of history or bonds with, you know. And so like, and it does feel, well, yeah, like it did feel like almost like having a war with my whole entire family that I've been at odds with in certain ways is playing out with these two. And like still wanting to play those roles and wanting to please and wanting to get along, but still wanting to stand up for me and wanting to be heard and wanting to be seen and wanting to be honored and allowed to have my story and my experience and my wisdom and my flaws. Like, why do I need to be perfect? Like, why do you gotta call out my shit or whatever perceived wrongs I've done? Or like, why can't you own your own bullshit? You know, like, just look at like where you listen, look at where you're not listening, look at where you haven't been able to listen or where you haven't been able to see. And like, instead of just accusing me, like, yeah, like the accuser and the scapegoat and the one that's wrong and the black sheep, like, why is it all about me? Like, why do I have to carry all the sins for my whole family? Like, why am I that one that has to do that? Like, I'm done carrying it like Atlas. Like, I'm not the glue. Like, it's gonna hold this shit together. I'm ready to let it go. In a way, like, I'm done. I'm done, like, sacrificing myself so that everyone else feels okay, or that, like, just to go along, like, in certain ways. Like, I can't do it. And that's why I'm so tired. And I've like struggled, like, or I thought I had to do that, but I also need to like express myself and be true to me, and that was like my major conflict. Like, yeah, how can I be the caregiver and take care of everyone and please everyone but still be true to me? And it's impossible, and I'm just done trying. Like, and that's like part of the reason why I was so angry, and I was just like, why? So like angry at me and angry at them for not like being able to respond or being able to own their own accountability and their own bullshit, you know? And I know we're at different levels, in different places, different levels of understanding and knowing ourselves and stuff. And so, like, I get that. I realize that. I know we're not always aware of stuff. We all have our own blind spots. And, like, our own limitations. And we have our own gifts and things that we can see that others can't see. We're having our own experience. And we all have wisdom and gifts to offer each other. So why can't we be accountable for all of it? And I feel like that's like a big part of a two-way street or a three-way street, is owning our own bullshit and our own power and our own accountability for all of it. And so it's much easier to blame someone or judge someone or condemn someone else than to swallow our pride and to like tell someone else they need to change or they need to adjust their behavior, instead of like changing our own minds, you know, like looking at our own self, you know, and fuck it. like I really need to be responsible for things that aren't mine, and if I need to withdraw and disengage and remove myself from the situation for a little while and give them the space for them to figure that out, that's what I get to do, you know, and that's fine. And so I don't have to feel guilty about it, because I was feeling like, yeah, in certain ways. Like, I think that's old programming. Like, feeling guilty because, yeah, one of the things I got and I understood today, I was writing today, and I didn't really see this clearly, but I saw it very clearly today. I lost my train where I was going with that. I saw some things today about relationships and about my part in it, and how I really needed that confrontation to be able to differentiate what was mine and what wasn't mine. And let's see. I don't know where I was going with that. Maybe it'll come. Oh, yeah, it's good to release. So. Maybe it'll come again. But like, yeah, I did see something that was really like, holy crap, oh my gosh, that's what it was about. Like, it's kind of funny. But it's about codependence, and it's just like about breaking old patterns and stuff. And I did really need that confrontation to see what I needed to see about me, and just, yeah, to see what I was carrying around that really isn't mine and I don't need to carry anymore. And like, yeah, just getting those different things. Yeah, and it kind of like made me upset, like in a certain way, where it was like, I'm the one that has to change for it to be okay. And it's just like, why don't you change your own mind? Why don't you change? Like, why do I have to be the one that compromises and like, and makes it all better? No, I don't think so. Not this time. And it's not like I'm like holding a grudge, or I'm like holding leverage over someone. It's just like, oh yeah, that's what I saw. It was like, it doesn't have to be like really, really, really bad for me to walk away. Like, that's what I always thought. Like, that I just get to sacrifice my life, my time, because that's who I am, and that's because I'm a giver. And just because it's not so bad, okay, and I make excuses for the other person, okay, well, they're going through this thing, and so I can allow them to be where they're at, and then I just like let it go and whore myself away. And it's just like, wait, just because I'm used to like throwing in the towel or walking away when it gets like really, really, really bad, or it gets to be really abusive, doesn't mean that I have to continue this until it gets that way, or until like my tolerance is ended. And it's just like, I can walk away anytime I choose. I'm not obligated. And that was like something I kind of knew, but I got to see, holy crap, I don't have to let this be really, really, really bad to know that it's not working for me. Like, I don't have to stay in it just because it's not really bad, and, well, okay, I can do this person a solid and they're struggling and stuff. Like, I don't have to do that anymore. Fuck that. And so that's what I got to see. And that was huge. Like, that's, and I'm sure like more will come out of that too. Like, also, like, I've noticed some one-way streets that like I've been responsible for co-creating and contributing to, like, in those ways, in those dynamics. And I'm just like, no, I don't think so anymore. Like, the one-way street, I'm done with that. Like, no thank you, I don't need that. And like, it's like a parasitic relationship, and it's like this victim sense of entitlement, and it's like, no, I'm not going to play into that anymore with the narcissist. So, and I was just like, kind of got these little things like, go grow your own ample teats to go sucketh, because I know mine are large, but like, they're not for you anymore, you know, like, go grow your own set of ample teats to go sucketh, because mine, like, yeah, are pretty dried up now. So yeah, kind of like at that point where it's like, Yeah, you're a ghost, you're a hungry ghost, and you only show up for when you need your narcissistic supply, and I'm done like providing that for you, you know. So yay, that's empowering. And even though it was like it wasn't easy to see, and certain things weren't easy to see, and oh my gosh, I have to tell you guys about like what the hardest part was for me about looking at some things and seeing them for the first time, or seeing like more, seeing a little more deeper into these things that I wasn't aware of and that I got to see. And it was very humbling. And it was like really like at first, like there was a second, like there was a split second where it was like I was starting to see it, and then like part of me wanted to contract and not see it, because it was like really hard to swallow for a minute. Like it was like eating crow. And I had asked Crow a couple weeks ago to come help me learn about natural law. And I've seen Crow come out in certain ways at play. And it was the funniest thing. Like the other day, like me and my husband were sitting on the porch having a smoke, and we were talking about something, and then there was this crow that came and did some weird, crazy reverse backflip and then flew away. And my husband Scott was like, whoa, that was crazy. And it was cool. And I was like, I took note, because it was like, yep, there's Crow teaching me about natural law and about cause and effect and all this shit that goes with it. And it was funny because it was like one of those omens or type like wink winks. And so I was just like going to eat crow, or eating crow. Like, okay, why is that so hard to eat? And I felt sheepish. Felt like the black sheepish. The sheepish, the sheepfish. I felt kind of sheepish, like, pointing it out or calling it out in others. And then actually like, and it wasn't long after, and I was like, and I kind of knew, and I was aware of it too. Like as my words were coming, as they were coming through, I knew it wasn't just the other, and it was for all of us, and it was for the benefit of all of us and for the whole. But then it was like a little bit harder for me to accept and to see, like in a certain way, that, oh yeah, I know I'm doing the same thing, but in another way, like because my need to be right was really strong because I felt so wrong. Like that was when like it, and I really like got to see that like little pattern at play where I didn't want to see it. Like I wanted to contract and still like point the finger back, but actually I was like, oh, okay, thanks for helping me see what I needed to see. Like, thank you for, because like I get to allow me to be, and I get to allow this to be all it is. And so like, and I know like it is always a reflection for me, and like a lesson in certain ways when certain things trigger me. And I know it takes two to tango and all of that. But it was the funniest thing. And I knew at the time, like when I had this contraction, I knew I had a choice to either push it away and deny it and not take accountability, or I could claim to draw on the strength and allow like all of my imperfections and all of my limitations, because I knew that that was where my true strength lies. My true strength is to draw from. And it was like, can I allow me my ignorance? Can I allow me my arrogance? Can I allow me my innocence? And can I allow me my wisdom? Yes, I can. And it was just like all my words that I offered all came back to me in certain ways, and we're very, very in my space. Like, can we allow each other to be as we are? Can we allow like ourselves as we are? And I was like, okay, yeah, I can allow myself as I am, even though like I had put myself on the pedestal again, or there was a projection of me on the pedestal of perfection that I needed to be, or that standards that I upheld or I held up for me to meet. Like, because I've always had such a strong desire for perfection and all of that idealism. Yeah. It's hard to see, like, oh, that I don't meet those. But nobody does. Like, nobody can. Nobody could. because they're false standards of perfection. It's an illusion. Like, and that is a static thing, and it doesn't allow for any growing or really any fullness, like, to be. Like, and so that's the lie, and that's the false reality, and that's the false light of perfection and the projection, the moralism that we project onto others, you know. And I also, like, it was kind of funny because it relates to my dream, where that was the theme, where I expected so much of my elders and my mentors and my teachers to have, it was unrealistic standards of perfection that I held for them in certain ways, because, like, well, they taught me so much and they know so much and they're so great. Like, why do they have these other limitations or these flaws or these things or these things that aren't as desirable as the other things? Like, you know, in certain ways, like when we judge and condemn because it's not perfect or it's not what we think it should be. And like, and I've been trying, I've been doing my best with working with that, like understanding that, allowing our fullness, like that we do have our fullness, and it's right for us to be always, like, because like it's always a balance and a dance, and if we didn't have those limitations, we wouldn't have our strengths, and if we didn't have our strengths, we wouldn't have our limitations, which are our future strengths. And like, like seeing all of that and knowing all of that, but in certain ways, like being so disappointed with being let down in certain ways, or people not following through in certain ways. And then, like, I always know that that's like, where do I get to follow through, and kind of things. Or just know that, like, okay, they didn't follow through with this. Where's my boundaries, or what's my agreement, or what's my part in this? And do I get to tell them how I feel about, like, that, or like kind of hold them accountable for that? Like, you know, you weren't accountable for what you said, you know, or for what you weren't accountable to your word, or if it was an agreement that we had together, you weren't accountable to this agreement we had, you know. Those kinds of things. But like seeing that my idealism and my perfectionist, and seeing how much I expected of them and how angry I was at them for not living up to those expectations, or like in certain ways, like that I felt like they should, or that I've seen them live up to before, but they just couldn't this time, or I don't know, like just in certain ways, like where I wasn't pleased, I was displeased with them, and they weren't pleasing me, or like, not that it's their job to please me, but like, you know, those ego games. And so I also realized that, like, I had those expectations for me too. Like, they were always standards that I measured, and I could see the measurement stick in certain ways being used, and it bothered me. And the reason that it bothered me is because it's a measuring stick that we unconsciously use, and that, like, I was actually unconsciously using too. And it's just like, I don't like that. I don't like that measurement stick. And I just kind of like decided to look at it, like what that stick was about. And it's a carrot on the stick too, you know. And so because I had such high expectations for my teachers, mentors, and elders, like, I felt like others were using that to measure me too, in certain ways. And like, because I've also been playing the role of a teacher the last couple of years in certain ways, like I felt like there was a lot that I had to live up to as well. And like, obviously I want to be accountable to myself, but like, sometimes having those expectations is disallowing of our fullness and my fullness. And then the sabotage, or the saboteur, comes into play. And like, it's like, why can't we allow ourselves to be human, and like to have our own mistakes and to learn? And like, just because someone has like a lot of wisdom doesn't mean that they aren't learning their own lessons still. And like, and I kind of like, I understood that on certain levels, like where I kind of have felt like very judged by certain people in the spiritual or community or groups, because like they have their own standards of perfection and moralistic perfection that like we use to measure ourselves or each other with, and it's just not, it's not like, it's a caricature, it's an image, it's a false image, you know, that we're trying to measure up to. And so like I kind of got like in a lot of ways like the standards that I was holding for my mentors and elders and teachers, like some of those standards like are like totally just bullshit and unfair, and I knew that, like some of it, but it was still made me upset, like because I expected so much, like expected them to get certain things that are related to other things. If you get this, why don't you get that? Like, and but we all have our blind spots, and we all have our different perspectives and different lessons and different roles and parts to play for the benefit of the whole. And even if we feel like we're doing it in the wrong way, or we're doing it wrong or something, like who's to say that it is wrong? Who's to say that we're not playing those parts exactly how we're meant to reflect or project back to someone else, like some art or like a part that they get to claim or play for them, because we're expressing that part through us, like for us and for them, for we in our individual and collective ways of being. Like, and so I've been looking into that a little more too, like I'm like seeing more deeply into that. And yeah, that was the hardest part for me to acknowledge, when I felt so judged and condemned because I wasn't perfect, or I wasn't getting certain things, or I didn't get everything that I wanted them to get either. And so that was like the hardest part, like was to swallow that pride. But it was like all of this took place in like a period of 5 to 10 seconds, but like seeing it and taking it all in and just like getting it, and then like feeling all those feelings of like like, do I want to own this? You know. But then I was like, okay, I can own this. I can allow it. Like, oh yeah, claim the fullness, claim the full, you know, claim the wholeness. Like, walk your walk, and talk your talk, and walk the talk. Take your talk for a walk, walk that talk. Own it. And it was just like, oh, okay. But it was like, it was so funny, like where I got this like huge thing in my throat, and it felt really hard to swallow, and I felt like, I don't want to swallow this. I want to give it back, and I want to blame someone else and just pin it on them. And like, that was just like a kind of a ego reaction, sort of to preserve my sense of self or whatever. And it was just so funny, but like, it happened so quickly though. Like, it was just so funny, but it was so intense, and it was like definitely something that I did get to choose and like, yeah, like own. And like, and then when I did own it, I thought, okay, let's look into this, let's investigate. And so, yeah, that was kind of, it was interesting, and it was humbling, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I don't need to be perfect, do I? And so there was a lot related to that. And then I just kind of, been feeling like other people might expect so much of me too, like, but I know I expect the most of me, like really in certain ways, but like it feels bad and it feels shitty when someone's not allowing or accepting because we don't fit into their mold of perfection or their image that they have of us, and we fall off the pedestal. And yeah, and I think we all kind of do that in certain ways to each other, because We expect so much of ourselves and each other. But like, yeah. There is so much that I wrote, like, yeah, this week. Like, freaking, yeah, that was kind of funny to see, like, it's like over 50 pages, like, in just a couple days. And that's like how much I actually got from that confrontation, even though I try and avoid that shit at all costs. And it was so funny. Like, where I was like kind of expressing certain things about control versus allowance and all that. And also about like, okay, this is how the process of disease and healing works, okay? So we allow our body to express what's no longer needed, to cleanse the body and to like release old toxins and old debris that we don't need anymore, that we need to release. And it's like, if we try and suppress or manage or repress like this natural cleansing process, then we're repressing the disease, and we're contributing to more illness. And like, so allow the process and allow the purging and allow the releasing and allow the cleansing process to take place, even though it's really uncomfortable and it doesn't feel good and it's kind of scary, and like, it's not pretty. It's not pretty, it's ugly, it can be messy, all of that. And so it was just like, that's interesting. Like that, like on one level, like that is totally describing the physical release and the healing and everything, but it's also the emotional and the energetic like part of healing and release, like letting it be uncomfortable and not having to fix it and not having to make it comfortable and not having to repress or manage it or medicate it or manipulate it, and like, yeah. And so like I was like, just letting it be messy and just letting it come out and be expressed in its own messy ways. And those like symptoms where we like been taught to judge it because it doesn't feel very good and it doesn't look very good, and there's a lot going on when we purge and release. So I was like, okay, can I allow the purge and release? Can I allow me to purge and release too? Like, even though it's not pretty and even though it's messy, and can I just allow it to be ugly and messy and like to be imperfect, and for this to be cleansed and this to be expressed, and not have to say that it has to be a certain way or look a certain way or feel a certain way. Like, can it just be? Like, yeah. And this is like, okay, I can allow it, and I can allow me to be a mess, like a hot mess, a big steaming mess right now, like, and not expect it to be falsely perfect, or try to smooth it over and make it comfortable so that it can feel peaceful. But that's like false peace, and it's not allowing the process to actually be honored and for cleansing and renewal and for healing and well-being. So that was interesting, like really interesting for me to be able to allow and to see. But like, yeah, I flipped open to this page, so I'll just read it. Control versus allowance, or response. So really like to respond or to allow the response, like to be open to receive or open to reception or receptivity, and to trust and surrender. And so it's like partnership, like in true exchange, versus possession. Like, I was looking at how we try and possess life and deny certain aspects so we can possess things. Yeah. And so allow the process, allow and receive. Letting go of expectations, disappointments, stories, false images, pedestal programs, false idols, hero worship, and idealism. Dogmatic standards of perfection that are impossible. It's disallowance of life's fullness and our experience and our beingness. So allow all life her fullness and allow her to be, I am willing. And so, and listening was a huge thing that came up. Listening was huge. And I got to see, like, in certain ways where I wasn't able to listen because I was stuck in my need to be right or my need to defend myself, so that I could be all right. And then, yeah, see where I had an agenda, or I was reinforcing my story and my agenda. And even though I believe, like, of course my story's right, my story's right for me, like, I know, like, I'm not all right, and I don't have all the answers, and I don't know everything, like, obviously. But, like, in certain ways, I was, like, kind of arrogant. I was the know-it-all, because I was like, I fucking know. I think I know a little bit, you know? And I was frustrated because nobody was really listening or hearing me or acknowledging what I actually had to say. Like, they only saw what they wanted to see, and so it was like, okay. And I know, like, that I have those tendencies to, like, to selectively see, hear, and believe what I want to believe. And, like, but I do consider and I question things, and I look at things from multiple perspectives. But, like, and then I take those like, those questions and those doubts seriously, and I do, like, go through them and just, like, question the nature of my reality and, like, what I'm seeing. But, like, yeah, sometimes we're just convinced we're right, and our story's the only one that's right, and, like, sometimes that, like, there's no room to open up to other possibilities or another story. And so, yeah, I had a nudge to pick up this book, The Sacred Art of Listening, and, like, yeah, I opened it today, and the funny thing was, the first thing that I opened to was part 18, Love in Action, Listening as Caring. Caring for another often expresses our listening in tangible ways. And I thought that was perfect for me, because, like, 5-10 minutes before that, I was writing something in my journal, and it was, like, exactly related to what I had just been writing and, like, kind of working with and coming into. And so I thought that was kind of cool, like, because I actually did, like, I was actually willing to open and listen to the story and, like, allow it to be, while still holding space for my own story and for myself to be. And, like, letting go of my agenda and, like, okay, well, I don't need to be right anymore, and I don't need to convince you, and okay, I hear you, okay, I'm sorry, I love you, okay, you know. And that, like, was like, okay, that freed up a lot of energy. And then, like, the next thing that I flipped open to, this is what I really needed to, it was chapter 25, The Agenda-Free Conversation, Listening with Openness. And so I'll read a little bit of that, because, and then I'll end with that for this little video. The agenda-free conversation, listening with openness. Listening doesn't always happen when 2 or more people are talking. Conversations can be like tag team monologues, each person waiting for the other to stop speaking so that each can take turns presenting their case. There's not much listening for understanding going on when each side is trying to convince the other that their position is the right one, or that they have the answer, or that they know what's best for you. Why listen? Why talk? Letting go of the desire to be right or to be nice or to seek approval, not only when listening but also in speaking, takes work. Guidelines for successful talking and listening are designed to remind us of the purpose of dialogue: to listen for understanding, to share and exchange ideas, and to seek new insights that were not present at the start. It takes practice to loosen our attachments to our own agendas. And so, yeah, I think that's a good place to end that right there. And so, yeah, looking at the agendas and looking at the attachments and looking at the need, or the ego needs, or the survival strategies. And so, thanks for listening, and thanks for sharing my breakthroughs with me. I hope you've all been well and you're taking good care of yourselves. Okay, I have so much more to share, and I will see you soon. I love you. Take good care of you. Okay, ciao.